How do we start a podcast?
I
How do
don't
we
know.
start this?
I have no idea how we start a podcast.
Maybe
It's
we just go for it.
Let's just go.
Hi, I'm Emily, author of The Xeris Galaxy, among other things.
And I'm Christen, author of the YA rom-com It Happened at Christmas, among other things.
And today we're excited to welcome you to The Margins, a podcast where we have candid conversations about the writing life, indie publishing, the book industry, and more.
Yay! Emily, what are we talking about today? What is our candid conversation?
Today's topic is goals. So there's a little bit of a backstory to this because so life happened to both of us, really. Life and deadlines and puppies.
Yes.
I guess just one puppy. But we started our goal planning and everything last year, and Emily didn't post that video in time. It will be posted by the time you're hearing this, so definitely make sure you watch that first or listen to that first. But we wanted to do a follow-up to actually plan out our goals, because we kind of talked about how we goal plan and how we're kind of going into 2026, and now it's April when you hear this.
Well, but I think that does bring up a good point, that it's never really too late to start goal planning. I mean, it doesn't have to be January 1st that you set your intention and you set your goals for the year. I mean, I was neck deep in not knowing if I was going to be able to finish writing a book in time, and that was literally my whole entire world for the first 2-3 weeks of January. And then, of course, I finished and I was like, okay, now I'm going to goal set. I was a potato for 3 weeks. I did not know how to write. I didn't know the next step. I was sleeping a lot because.
Well, you had to catch up.
I did. Your girl didn't go to bed, I think, the last 2 weeks before 2 or 3 a.m. So yeah, it's never too late to jump back into it or jump into it for the first time, and just set your intentions for the year. When this launches, it'll be April. So we're just starting the second quarter. You still have there's still a lot of year left to get things done. So
I think we tend to want to hop, at least I know I do, want to hop on kind of the motivation that comes with starting a new year. And actually, so a little bit, like I mentioned, we got a puppy in November. His name is Riker Picard. Yes, it is from Star Trek. He's a black lab and he's super adorable. But despite all the research I did and despite having dogs before, he was just a lot of work. And I kind of went through what they call the puppy blues. I did not regret getting him, but it was really hard. And now you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, Pages has joined the chat. Pages is my cat. But anyways, apparently I like black animals. But she and Riker are not quite friends yet. We're working on that. But anyways, so life for me was very different. So Kristen was dealing with a massive deadline. I was dealing with just I don't know how to handle all of the things that I have to have done in my life. And so when we hit the new year, I just really felt that lack of time to be able to sit down and think, what do I want to do this year? What can I accomplish? And in a very odd twist of things for me, because I'm very motivated usually and extremely goal oriented, I didn't really have the desire or the motivation to make those goals. Mostly because I just didn't know, and I still don't really know what life will look like for the rest of this year. So as we get into it and being more specific with my actual goals, I will say that I have a lot of goals, and I actually pared them down quite a bit just for this episode because it's I want to do this and I want to do this. But I'm taking a breath, I think, this year.
Well, and I also would like to say, because I think both of us do this. We both have multiple projects that we want to work on. I mean, we have lists and lists and lists. I mean, I think you mentioned, there's 20, 25 projects you want to work on. And I know that mine is up there as well. And I think the fun factor of this is that you can keep adding to the list, but just look at your list and figure out what is best to work on right now. And then start with that project, or which one makes you most excited.
Absolutely. And I wanted to have you talk about this specifically
Mm-hmm.
because as this was, I think, last year, as we were talking about goals for this year, very in a very loose type of way.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that you want to, maybe it was the beginning of this year, whenever it was, we talked about this. Time flies and who knows what's happening. But you had mentioned that you're going to try to do something a little different this year with like regards to like quarters and planning. So do you remember that conversation?
I don't, but
Okay. But you were,
it was
instead of planning
probably
out like an entire
entire
year, which
year.
is what we tend to
Yes.
do, and be like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like I do it by month sometimes. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll write this book in this month and this book in this month. And like by the time I get to that month, like stuff has happened. So,
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to the concept of thinking of your big and then breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. So I might want to write 4 books this year. That's great. But if I break it down, break it down, break it down, I realize I'm good for maybe one every 6 months or one a quarter. Probably not one a quarter, because then you also have to factor in life stuff, because we aren't just these robots sitting on a computer. If we were, we would get a lot more. I think they call that AI.
yeah, I was going to say we don't use AI. So that's why we
think,
actually
yeah.
have to think about our time.
Yes. So instead of looking at the full year and being completely overwhelmed, because yes, I want to write 4 books and a year sounds like a long time, breaking it down between like quarters and working on a project a quarter, because I feel like you can really, you can take the quarter. I mean, every quarter is going to be different. Like my third, the end of my second quarter, beginning of my third quarter is going to look a lot more bonkers than somebody who might not have kids and have kids at home. Like for you, that might be the ideal time to be like, I can write 6 books now because it's summer and I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So just taking it by quarter instead of by year, and goal setting by quarter instead of year. It also, I mean, I like setting goals. I like thinking of possibilities and making the plan. So to have like this little mini planning goal session every quarter to figure out what I'm going to work on, that's exciting to me. So
I love that idea. And I would say for this year, and it's going to just look different than it would for past years, because past years, my time was completely my own. This year, at least for a while, until Riker is a little older, I still am working in chunks because he needs some observation. Like it's getting way better as he gets older. But I just don't have the same amount of time that I did in the past. So because of that, I would say I'm kind of doing the same but different. I am looking at it as these are the main things I would like to get done.
yeah.
And where I would usually sit down and like very hard I break things down even further. So I will go, this book needs to be this amount of words. And that means I need to write, if I can do maybe 3,000 to 4,000 words a day, 5 days a week, I can get it done in this many weeks or whatever. I like to break things down like that much. I still face the same things of like, well, what happens when this week does things like our basement flooded yet again? So all of a sudden the plans I'd had for the next several weeks, they're still there, but like they have to be shifted. So all that to say, I'm doing a more overview for the year, almost like it's like my quarter, and just being like, okay, I'm hoping to fit these things in. Now, I wouldn't recommend that because I know I'm more productive when I can be like, okay, in July, I'm going to write this book, and in August, I'm going to do this. And, but I'm just not sure. I'm honestly just not sure what things are going to look like. So I'll give you guys the overview and the stretch goals. That's what I'm going to call my, like, I really want to work on this book, but I don't know if I'll have the time for it. So.
Yes. Okay. Well, what are those? Do you just want to dive right in?
Sure, yeah. So we're going to start off with something that should have been done many months ago and is really close to being finished, and that is the novella of Sea and Starlight. So it's my Mermaids in Space story. It started as a short story that was about like 5,000 words. It's already at, I think I'm over 30K on it. I am so close to being done with this. But for some reason, it's been really hard for me to push through to the end. And I don't really know why. It's been plotted for months. So I know what I'm writing. I just am maybe like maybe they're not feeling it, and that kind of worries me because it means I'm probably gonna have to go back and do something to feel it more when I reread it. So I will push through and finish that soon because it does need to get out to my backers. It needs to be done, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm procrastinating on it, and I'm not sure why. And then my next secret sci-fi project, I can't tell you guys anything about it yet because we just really haven't announced anything yet, but it needs to be done and it needs to be done yesterday. So that is like top priority for me. Then I get to bounce to some other things. And this is where it's like, what could I do? Who knows? I have 2 short stories that are part of my Kickstarter. They're going to be 3,000 to 5,000 words, so it shouldn't be too hard, but also I have to like come up with story ideas.
Yeah.
And because those are things I think that will be a nice bridge between starting another full novel. For my pen name, I need to write the second Christmas book, so that will obviously need to come out October or November this year. So I really want to do it sooner rather than later. I even forgot another project that should be on this list. And I can't tell you anything about that. Christen knows about it, but there's another project, so we'll just say that. And then my last thing that I would like to add on to this year, if I can fit it in, let's put it this way. When I fit it in, and it will be my romantasy. It is not plotted, but the idea is pretty firm in my head. I just need to figure out how I want to tell this story because it is a different genre for me. So I should say I'm probably going to be calling it fantasy romance, but also using it interchangeably with romantasy. It's going to be no spice, no swearing, nothing of that nature, but I'm really, really excited for it. It's probably gonna be a little more like new adult, just in the ages of the characters. Yeah. So yeah. And then the last thing, because Emilie likes to do all these things, would be my proposal for another book that I really want to get out, but that fits in the cracks because it just can't be a priority for me right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all the writing. And then very quickly on the other side of things, I really want to kind of reinvigorate my Instagram. I would like to do a little bit more, like call them talking heads. The thing is I don't want to do that, but I see that that's where social media is going. Mm-hmm. And I think it could be really helpful to step into that space in that way. Really terrible timing as my library will be dismantled, so I will have no pretty place to do this, but just trying to tackle topics that meet my reader audience, but then also my writing audience, because there's like a lot of people who follow me for writing too. Yeah. So we're trying to find the line there. Mm-hmm. And then I need to stay on top of my newsletters, which is already something I failed at. So that was a lot, but Christen, lay it on us. What about yours?
So I feel like in the past that I've had grandiose goals and then I never meet them, and then I kind of just beat myself up about it. So I'm kind of taking a step back this year from like goal setting for all of the things, and I'm really focusing on, well, first and foremost, murder mystery. Like that's kind of the big one.
Which will be edits for you next.
Yes, it'll be edits for me next, and then possibly coming up with the next thing to pitch out to the publisher to see if they want to continue working. So that's kind of on that side of things. And then I always feel like I want to be writing something. So this first half of the year is focused on what I'm calling Project Bog Troll. I'll tell you more about it when I can tell you more about it. But so that's what I'm working on. Drafting and plotting. I'm a horrible plotter, but I'm really trying to embrace it, guys. I'm trying to.
Why? Tell us why.
Because when you have
because Emilie told you to. No, I'm kidding.
No, so I am probably a plantser. So I write so much, and then I like to like kind of plot the book out. When I don't have I wouldn't say a good grasp on the book. I would say when it's really helpful to have the plot in front of you because you know where you're going. I do not do super detailed plots, and I'm trying to learn all about I know I should already know this because I've written like 6 books at this point, or 8 books, or however many books, but just labeling like the like Save the Cats. If you ever read Save the Cats, there's the opening scene, and there's the catalyst, and there's the, all of these different points to your plot. And I've never been good about taking my plot and putting it into where it needs to go. So it just helps you write faster when okay, today I'm sitting down and I'm writing, and I'm going to write this scene, and this is what the scene has to have in it. So I understand the benefits of having a really good plot. I just haven't grasped it completely yet. And maybe it's not my process. Maybe I just need to completely let that go and just write the book. But so, yes.
Well, I think
Working
you're
on
kind
Bob
of
Joe.
like testing the waters, right? It's
Yeah.
just like to figure out what your process is. And I feel like that's very typical for writers who've written several books is like,
Yeah.
did it work well for me last time? Not really sure. If not, let's switch something up and see if that helps.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So this pretty much first half of the year is Bog Troll. And then third quarter, I would like to write another, I'm sorry, guys, Christmas book in the Iverson series. Super fun. I have been wanting to write this one for years, and it just hasn't aligned with other deadlines and stuff. So hoping to write that one and get that one out this year. Fingers crossed. And that is what I have on the plate. Also, Emilie Spencer, that's ongoing, writing those chapters and getting those out on Substack.
Oh, I forgot to mention Dragons in Space. So
Yes, Dragon in Space. Yes, yes. And then my stretch goal will be the dystopian, y'all. It is time. It is time. It has been time. It has been time for quite a while. But working on that one, I have a slotted date that I would like to have it out by. Well, slotted year that I would like to have it out by, just because of kind of everything, all of the moving parts with contracts and stuff. So, but yes, that's kind of my stretch goal, is to work on that one, to have that one, and it's a duology, so I would like to have both of them ready to go. And then I have some other things surrounding that I would like to work on as well. So, it's kind of just this whole big project.
And maybe I can convince you to do a Kickstarter for it. Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe.
Oh, I guess that is some news that I haven't like really released to you guys yet, which is that I am not doing a Kickstarter this year, which is I'm not doing a personal Kickstarter this year. We'll just leave it at that. I'm bummed because that was where the Romanticy was going to come out, and I was really, really excited about it, but life circumstances. A good reminder to everybody listening that you can have your plans. Obviously, I have a lot of plans, but it's okay to pivot and let things go if they need to.
Well, and two, you're taking a break. This isn't like you're never going to do another Kickstarter.
Right.
It just kind of shifted. The plan just kind of shifted a little bit. So it's still coming. It's just not when we originally this is what's going to happen. So
yeah. Well, I would say like I'm at this kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call it a crossroads, but I wrapped up a whole trilogy. That last book it took a lot out of me. And kind of recognizing like I'm still at the very beginning of my career as a YA author, or at least a science fantasy author. We'll just put it that way. And very early stages. Like it's lovely to have a whole trilogy complete, but I also have the perspective that like this is very much just the beginning. And I'm very antsy to get more books out. But a lot of that looks like planning. I would highly recommend this to authors who have the ability to survey their readers. I sent out a survey to my last Kickstarter backers and just asked them some questions about Kickstarter and about what they're interested in seeing from me. And that's been hugely helpful to see. Oh man, it's just great to have some like input from readers. One of the questions I asked was, what could you like sustain basically of purchasing books from me? Because it sounds like a weird thing to ask, but at the same time, like, oh sure, maybe I want to put out 5 books next year. Well, if the readers can't afford to purchase all of those books, maybe that's not the best or wisest choice for me. not to say that I can't still just publish those books, but just kind of considering my audience as well. A lot of them suggested like one Kickstarter is great for them, with maybe an additional like normal wide release, something like that, you know?
The problem with your Kickstarters, Emily, is that you make them really awesome.
That's a
And
good
so,
thing.
no, yeah, it is a good thing. But yeah, it
But
does.
it can be
Yeah,
expensive.
it can be,
Yeah.
but
And my
it's
goal
still
for the next Kickstarter is really to like decrease the price as much as I possibly can,
fun.
so that I can just reach more readers, but still have a really pretty book. So like I ask those questions too. So anyways, that's just like a little tidbit of like when you're planning out your things,
Yeah.
thinking too, like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I want to put out like 6 books, but now, you also have to consider, especially as an indie author, it's
Mhm.
not just your existing readership that is going to be supporting you. Hopefully, you know, you're going to stretch into wider areas, and that's where we see people have been able to publish 6 books in a year and
Yeah.
have that support, which is totally fine. But if you're just trying to kind of think through, like maybe you're feeling the pressure to
Mhm.
add in more than you actually need to be. I know for a long time we in this industry, especially in the indie industry, it was very much like if you're not putting out at least 4 books a year, you're irrelevant.
Yeah. And
And I think that that's changing.
I feel like for a while there it was even more.
Yeah, true.
Like 4 was like the ultimate, like that was just the minimum. Like it was better to put out more than just 4. So,
Yeah. Well, and then I would say last thing on this topic is just that I write in multiple pen names for this very reason. Now, this year is not maybe a great example of this, but in the past, I really have been able to sustain just like a higher writing rate. I can get more books out. I can, you know, I haven't, but I can when I'm able to kind of focus on the writing aspects of it. And so I'm able to kind of spread out the, I guess I could say, the production that I can
mhm.
do versus the need to have it purchased by all
Yeah.
of the same readers or whatever. So that is kind of like a little side quest that you can do is
Yeah.
write under a different pen name.
Yeah. So those are kind of our goals for this year. I'm sure at the end of the year we'll kind of have like a recap and sharing how we did, what happened, what worked, what didn't work. But we want to hear from you. If you have some writer goals this year, we'd love for you to share them. You can share them on the Substack. We have Instagram. I don't think you can share them on the podcast. Anyway, yes, but we would love to,
On the YouTube.
on
If
the
you
YouTube.
go
Yes,
to
there you go.
YouTube and you're watching there, which we would love to have you
Yes.
subscribe, that helps us out. Share it with your fellow writers who are interested in things like this. But feel free to drop your goals below in the
Yes.
comments. We'll try to respond as we get the chance
So
to.
glad that you remember that we have YouTube because I constantly forget.
I
So moving on to pub tip.
So, Kristen, I think you have our pub tip for us today.
Oh, I do. And I have to get my hand down the phone for this one. So one thing that I think is very important is our platforms. And while we may not like them, we may hate social media, but they are important. They are important to help us get the words out about our books. And so,
Also, let me put
mhm,
a little side note on that. As I was talking about proposals, what you're going to talk about is very helpful
yes.
if you are in the position to where you need to create a proposal or
Mhm.
even you're maybe querying agents or editors. This is going to help you too.
Yes. So I just have a note on my phone. If you're on YouTube, you can see where I collect my social media numbers every single month. At the beginning of the month, it's just something that I do. It's on my phone so that I don't have to rush around for the paper or the document that I have it in. Just a note on my phone, and I just go through like the Instagram, my newsletter subscribers, my Substack subscribers, the podcast Substack subscribers, and TikTok, and I just have a little note, and it just has what my numbers are. And twofolds. Number one, if you're creating a proposal, you don't have to search and dig for this information. You already have it.
Mhm.
Secondly, it's really kind of fun to kind of see, oh, hey, I gained 4 followers this month, or I gained 2 followers this month. Sometimes when the movement is very minimal, it's hard to kind of not track it, but it's hard to realize that you actually are
Mhm.
making those strides. And it also is helpful to see what might not be working for you. Like if you're not growing on a certain platform, maybe it's time to like ditch that platform, or time to like double down and start putting more into that platform to grow.
I love that. I don't personally do that yet, but now I want to start. As we've talked about this, I'm like, that's a really great idea. Now, if you're someone like me, I actually don't love to see the flux. I don't like to see like, oh, I lost followers or whatever. And I don't know why that is because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I think maybe what it is that I try to not make my platforms about just like growing numbers, but you can't really divorce yourself from that as an author, right? Like it's more of a fact than it is an emotional thing, or at least that's the way that I want to look at it. So look at the facts of, oh, I was posting more on Substack and look, I gained some followers or whatever. I think it's helpful to see that not as like oh, my worth is tied to this, but like just as a straight
Well,
up fact, this is where I'm at.
and you can see if you have a certain strategy for a certain, you can see if it's working or not. I know, some people buy into like a whole bunch of authors get together and, it's follow me, follow them, follow what for a giveaway type thing. Well, it's great if you get, the document back and it's like, we had 974 like people subscribe, and that's awesome. But if 970 came from you, then you really only grew 4. So it's kind of really
That's a
good
good
to
point.
see like what is actually working.
I love that. And then for our listener question, we have kind of a twofold question here. The first part of it is, do you need an editor? And the second part is, if so, where do you find those editors? I'll tackle the first part. Obviously, Christen, chime in too. The answer is very, it depends. Do you need an editor? So let's say there's a couple of different options here. So if you are someone who is writing to, like, you're aiming towards traditionally publishing initially, like that's your goal right now, I don't necessarily think that you need to hire an editor before you submit your book to a traditional publisher. If you choose to, that is an option, but I have a weird take on this. Think about it this way: whatever you're writing and submitting to this publisher, hopefully some reader friends read over it, critique it for you, get it to your best polished state. If the publisher likes that, chances are you can recreate that because it's your writing. And if nothing else, you'll probably get better at it. And they're already going to have an editor working with you. So to me, the positives towards that are like, you're kind of confident in moving ahead with that publisher. The downside to maybe like hiring an editor to then polish your work before you submit it to a publisher who then has it work with another editor is that, first of all, those editors may not agree. Secondly, it's an expense to you that you don't necessarily need to have. And then thirdly, are you always going to hire an editor before you submit to your publisher? I do know authors who do that. So I'm not saying you can't or you shouldn't. It's just like, is that always going to be part of your process? If so, go for it. But if not, I mean, I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, I agree. And I feel like if you're going the traditional route, if you're going the indie route, 100%.
We haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We both agree. But if you're going to the traditional route, I almost feel like it would be a waste of money, simply because you can have those beta readers read it, and you can have those friends look over it and give you critiques on it. Because, I mean, Emily's right. You're already going to be working with an editor once you get signed. Now, I would say, if you've tried to query something, and I mean, that might be a point where you could hire an editor, fresh eyes. Fresh professional eyes to look on it and be like, okay, what is wrong with it? Because I'm getting a lot of bites, but I'm not getting any takers. Or, if you wanted to do something like that, that might be a good idea at that point, just to have on it. And I think that's more of a read through, not a hardcore edit.
If you're an independent author, should you hire an editor? Absolutely. I recommend at least hiring two editors, sometimes 3, but obviously finances are going to be an issue here. The first would be someone to go over developmentally over your manuscript. So that is like, story structure, character arcs, all of those things. Like, is your story healthy? Is it doing well? Is it good? And then a second aspect would be a proofreader. Now there's, copy and line edits in the middle of there, but you got to figure out what's going to be best for you as an author. And, if you publish a book and it gets good reviews, stick with that process.
Yes.
So
The other question, yes, the other question that we get, I mean, I don't know if you get it, Emily, but I feel like I get it quite frequently is, I need an editor. Where can I find an editor? And this answer is kind of threefold, I feel like. First one would be word of mouth. Talk to your other author friends who have, maybe are a step or two above you in the publishing process and have worked with editors. They can point you in the right direction. If you are part of any writing clubs, I guess it's called, like ACFW or SWBCI, what is it?
SCBWI?
Something like that, yes. If you know, you know. I feel like they have lists, they have resources, they can point you in the right direction. And then also there is a website called editresource.com, and they work with an author to place them with an editor. And there's, the range that they can help you with is great. Nonfiction, fiction, middle grade, they can place you with an editor. So that's another great resource to have in your pocket as well.
Absolutely. I would say too that so Readsy is a resource. I initially looked at Readsy for an editor because I had heard that, editors for the big five will sometimes freelance there. Pages is clawing me to death. Okay. But their prices are very high. And I started to think to myself, well, do I need to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on editing? I don't agree with that. I don't advise that because especially, this is a whole nother conversation, so I won't dive too deep here, but especially if you are looking at creating a long indie author career, you will not be able to make back the money you spend on your editor for at least your first 3 to sometimes 6+ books. And that sounds like really dour, and definitely there are ways to get around that. Kickstarter is one of them. Having a, breakout novel is another. You can't really plan for that though. So I tend to say, ask your author friends or make some friends and ask them who they use, and maybe find someone who is an emerging proofreader. Try to cut those costs a little bit when you're on the front side of things so that you can then afford to like pay for more as you get like more advanced into your career.
And I will always say, treat this as, I want to say a working relationship, but don't just jump with the first editor that has the perfect price at the beginning, because they could not understand your writing. They could have not ever read anything in your genre. So you'll want to do a vetting process, maybe send a page or two and ask them for notes on it. And that's completely fine. That's like normal. I think they expect that. So,
and it shouldn't be something you pay for. Usually an editor will offer at least 5 pages for free. I do understand that there's some who do require payment for that. I tend to think that's not maybe the best practice. People can tell me that why they do that. It could just be like people are using it for like free editing. So definitely don't agree with that. But typically there's some options so that you can know who you're working with and how they're going to treat your work, which is really important.
And it's one of those things that goes both ways. I mean, if an editor is like, I'm not jiving with you as an author, like we wouldn't have, they could be a great editor, but if you're not jiving, it's not going to be a good relationship. So just find somebody who clicks with you and just, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we might maybe do a little wrap-up post on this specifically on Substack, because I know I have some recommendations for editors that I've used. I don't know if they're like open for work at the moment, but it'd be kind of fun to have a little resource there that we could add to as we go. But yeah, make sure you have subscribed to the YouTube channel, to our podcast, wherever it is that you get your podcasts, and we'll see you back next week.
Sounds great. See ya.